Hey, thank you guys for joining us today. I am here with Tim McCarthy. He has written some amazing books, and you're not going to believe some of the things that he has come up with, but also that he's sharing with people today. And I was really blown away. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. And he's going to teach us about his 2D, 4D method, as well as some of his background and some of the things that he's done in his life. So Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy the opportunity to speak with you and your fans and audience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So give us a little bit of your background. I know you were a martial arts instructor for a long time.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I consider myself really an educator. That was my background. Went to college to become a teacher, taught school for 10 years, both public and private, worked my way up into administration, was also a coach. So that was a good life. And then they fired me as the coach. And that left me with just the administration dealing with the bad kids. So that wasn't terribly fun. So I said, enough of this.
Yeah.
And I was an educational consultant. And this is back when computers were new. And I would help remedial kids learning how to read, write, arithmetic on the computer. Got fired from that, kind of for political reasons. But I had a friend who used to joke, she'd say, "Don't fire me. I'm too dumb to quit." And I think that's what happened in my life. I was too dumb to quit. And education is a great field, but you can only deal with, say, 30 students at a time. I sat back, I said, well, if I won the lottery, what would I do with my life? I said, well, I think I'd practice martial arts all day long.
That's a good question.
Yeah, my passion.
Yeah.
And so I went to my master and said, what's the possibility of doing this? And he said, sort of like the old Kung Fu story, if you wait outside the temple for a week and you can make it that long, we'll let you in. He said, yeah, I'll hire you, but you have to volunteer 40 hours or 50 or 60 hours a week for a month. So I did that, proved myself, stayed with him for 30 years and had a glorious career where I never worked a day in my life. I loved it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so along the way, couple of things we did. We helped school owners become better businessmen. They tend to be great fighters, but not very good businessmen. And so they have 100 students, and then they close, and the students would be left out in the cold.
Right.
So so we put together a package back in the early 90s, video, audio, and book on how to run a successful martial arts school. And saved a lot of schools, kept them in business, and helped a lot of students. He also had a company that would advise martial arts school owners. And so I brought my educational background into that, not only how to be a good fighter, but how to be a better teacher for your students.
That's great.
Yeah. And then probably the thing that most affects what we're talking about is around the turn of the century, around the year 2000. We popularized the after-school martial arts program. I'm sure you've seen the signs all over the U.S.
Yeah.
After-school martial arts and summer camp. We didn't invent it. We worked with one of the pioneers of that, but we partnered and popularized it and brought it to thousands of schools across the country. And so part of that program is, if you have a summer camp, you're not going to practice martial arts 8-10 hours a day for 13 weeks of summer. You need other stuff to do. So I put together some educational activities to help the kids throughout the day for the school owners to use. Now I've retired, and I said, well, this is such a great program. Why can't I bring it to the average parent and provide the activities that help the students develop physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? And so, if I may, that's the martial arts. That's what it's about. You bring your kids in there, they train physically. They're not on the computer, they're exercising. It's physical, mental. They have curriculum they need to learn, forms. And most good schools also have like a curriculum about how to obey your parents, how to respect your teachers. So that's the mental part. The emotional part, confidence. I've seen kids come into class, and I had one master, all he would do is call roll at the end of class. I'm sorry, that's not all he would do, but one of the things he would do for confidence, and he'd go, Bobby, and Bobby would stand up and go, yes, sir. No, Bobby, say, yes, sir. And within a month, he'd go, Bobby, yes, sir. Confidence that the kids could, public speaking scares people to death. And here we're starting the kids at 5, 6, 7 years old, being able to talk, helping to teach the other students. Tremendous confidence builder outside of the confidence that you can defend yourself if you need to.
Right. That's
and
great.
Then, finally, I'm sorry. I'm just on a roll here.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm loving it.
Finally, the spiritual dimension. I always say in the martial arts, it's important to know how to punch somebody, but it's much more important to know when to punch somebody and when not to punch somebody. And so the martial arts for me was an understanding of how to raise people, how to teach people in all 4 dimensions of human potential.
Yeah, that's great. It also, between that and teaching, gave you quite an oversight on children overall.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of experience. I mean, I've taught literally thousands of kids.
And over 30 years, I'm interested in what you saw change, in society in America with the kids, because one of the things I talk about a lot is identity. And I watched the shift happen over the last 30, 40 years, where they did used to know their identity. But because of the fatherless situation we're in and social media and a lot of other components, kids don't know who they are anymore. And I'm sure you saw that as well.
Well, and that's part of what I would call spiritual education. If you don't want to be spiritual, moral education, even the best atheists will accept morality. And that's part of it. Finding out who you are, finding out where you fit in. And I go through that age by age as to when the child can start understanding that he's part of a group.
Right.
And then part of that group had to try to fit into the group. And then as you get a little bit older, not just fitting into the group, but distinguishing yourself in meaningful ways. Right? You'll have teenage girls will spell their name differently. Instead of Jackie, Jackie, Jacky, Jakki, just that's an attempt to say, I'm different, I'm unique.
Yeah.
But there are much broader, better ways to do that, to develop what's called a internal locus of control, so that you're not depending on everybody else to tell you what to do. You're starting to look inside to find out what the right thing is.
Yeah. And this is where I come from on the spiritual end, is because I am a follower of Jesus. And so for me, I look at the relationship between the Father and the Son, and who I am and whose I am. And that gives me the confidence within knowing the Holy Spirit's inside of me, but I know who I am because I know whose I am. And when you know that, it changes the way that you express yourself, like you were talking about. And then you don't have to express yourself by what you can do or what you do for a living, or what grade or achievement you've made in school, which is what most people, especially men, will tend to do. If you ask them who they are, they're going to tell you what they do. And that's a misnomer, because what we do is such a small part of who we are, unless we figure out really who we are, like you did. And then you find your place in your calling in life and how you're supposed to help people. And then you never work a day in your life if you're helping people in the way that you were designed to do it. Because I believe your creator did that for you. I think he created you to help people in a certain way. And you're not in competition with anyone else, because only you can do it the way you were designed to do it. You're unique in that. So
yeah, your job is to express. Your job is to express your individuality in a positive way.
And share, and in the end, in my mind, share his love. Because the commission that we were given by Jesus is spread the gospel, the good news of the gospel, to the 4 corners of the earth. Well, we're all designed to do that in some way, and we're all sharing some sort of gospel, whatever it is. But you are designed to share the love of God with people by helping them in some capacity. And when you find that place, that's when you find peace. That's when you find fulfillment and contentment in life.
Right. And parallel to that, I've always believed that the basis for self-confidence is knowing you're a good person, which is, again, spiritual, doing the right thing. And none of us is perfect. We don't do the right thing all the time.
Absolutely.
But if we do our best to do the right thing as often as we can, that's where true confidence comes from.
Because no one can tell you you're not that person.
No.
You know internally that you are. I said to my son, I remember we were dealing with confidence on the basketball court. And I said, you know, your last name is Feynman, but some kid comes up and goes, "Hey, what's up? What's up, Josh Smith?" He's like, "My last name's not Smith." And I'm like, "Would you argue with that kid?" And he goes, "Yeah, I would tell him that's not my name." And what if he keeps telling you that's your name? Your name is Smith. Your name is Smith. Your name is Smith. You know the truth. So you're going to fight that and you're going to say, "No, it's not. I don't care what you say. I know what my last name is. I don't care if you know or not." And that's that confidence and understanding of who you really are. That was just an analogy that showed him, and it went click. It was great to watch because his mind, I saw him stare off into space and then look back at me. I'm like, okay, he got it.
You got it. Well, that's what psychologists call the internal locus of control. And so you stop. It's a process of growth. You look to others. You look to your parents to teach you what's right. You look to your ministers, your priests. You look to your friends to tell you what's right. But at some point, you have to make that decision of, I'm going to depend on me more than anybody else. And that doesn't happen until the early teen years. I mean, you can't expect this of an 8-year-old. But the early teen years, it's available. And that's where you, in my opinion, you need to develop that in your child, because you can't be there to make every decision for them. You can only set them out into the world. And as a very simple example, if you teach your daughter, do as you're told, do as you're told, do as you're told, and then her boyfriend tells her, "Well, you're my girlfriend, we're supposed to have sex," what's she going to do? Mm-hmm. But if she has that internal locus of control where she's been taught to question everything, a double-edged sword, question everything,
sure,
but question everything and rely on your inner beliefs to guide you more than whatever the people say, she'll probably make the right decision.
That's right. And that comes from the parents. You're absolutely right. At the Dad Link, we talk about the transition from cop to coach, which happens about 12 years old. And that as parents, we have to facilitate that for our kids and say, okay, I noticed that you're starting to want to be independent. I see these are the things that you want in life. I want to help you get them. In order for you to get them, there are a few responsibilities that you're required to do, but I'm going to let you handle that yourself. And your actions will either bring consequence or they will bring fruit. It depends on how you treat them. But I'm not going to make you do these things. I'm not going to force you, but the outcome is based on how you approach it. So here are the things that are required of you. Here are the things that you want. I will help you get those things when I see that you can do these things. And it gives them power. It empowers them. And when kids, we talk about this a lot when they're 12 years old and you say, "Sit down because I said so." And they'll sit down, but in their head, they're standing up in defiance. So you're at that point where you've got to switch from cop to coach. And that's hard for dads because we're used to being busy and just going, "Because I said so, shut up and do it." That's a dad, right? And but overcoming that, like you said, gives them the ability to think, to question, to reason. And I say to my son all the time, I will be with you for the rest of my life, but I will not be with you for the rest of your life. So I need you to learn these things so that when I'm not here to guide you, you know what to do.
Well, first of all, I love cop to coach. Never heard that before. Brilliant. The second, you're right around 12, and it depends on the child, on how you help them advance up to that. But yes, a good guideline about 12 years old as they enter the teen years. So very, very good. I learned something today. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me about your books, because one of the things that really blew me away when we were talking the other day, I had said to a friend some of the excuses that parents make. And I deal with dads on this a lot. You go into a business meeting, you're completely prepared. You know everything you need to know. You're not winging it. You're just going in. But then when it comes to being a dad, you say, well, we're doing the best we can. We're winging it. There's no instruction manual for kids. And you actually wrote one, which is really
yes. Yeah. And that's literally what I tried to do was
Yeah.
write the instruction manual or the owner's manual for kids, because so many parents, you get this beautiful baby and you bring it home and you love it to death. And what do I do? And if you're fortunate to have good parents to guide you, that's great. But even good parents like mine didn't have the education, for example, in emotional education.
Right.
I just didn't have a good emotional education. As a teenager, I was a child, didn't know how to talk to girls, didn't know how to start a conversation, didn't have any confidence in that area.
Right.
There are specific skills that can be taught, all the way up to leadership skills. I'm sure you're familiar with those for teaching those in business.
Yep.
So back to what I decided to do was take my background in education, do some research in psychology, and just take an age group. I started with prenatal care. And what does the average prenatal mother and father need to know when they're pregnant? And I've got a short section, but a section of the father's responsibilities during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like knowing your wife is going to be on an emotional roller coaster, her hormones are going, so don't be a jerk.
Is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even a saint's going to get yelled at when she's pregnant, but don't make it more than necessary.
Yeah.
So anyway, I researched every age group, hundreds of psychological studies, which I reference in the book to back up what I say. Divided. So I divided it up into ages. What do you do with an infant? What can you expect from a toddler and those crazy, terrible twos? What can you expect from a preschooler, school age, middle school, preteen, teenager, all the way up through adolescence, and they're ready to go out the door. Then I broke it down into the 4 dimensions. And so let's talk about the title for a moment. Yeah. Raising 4-dimensional children in a 2-dimensional world. My opinion is that we live too much in a 2-dimensional world. You and I right now are in that 2-dimensional world. I see you on a flat screen. It has length and width, but no depth. That would be the 3rd dimension that reality has. What's behind you? I can see books, but they're not really there because they're just on a flat screen. If we were in person, there would be depth.
Right.
And then, according to H.G. Wells, the 4th dimension is time. If something doesn't exist for an amount of time, we don't perceive it, we don't understand it. So length, width, depth, duration are the 4 dimensions. And I want to get the kids off the screen into the real world of 4 dimensions, but also the 4 dimensions of human potential, which is a very Eastern way of looking at things, from the martial arts, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And so let's get the kids off the screen, let's get them in the real world, but at the same time, have the parents aware of the 4 dimensions and give them the tools to understand from the psychological studies what a 2-year-old is capable of. Why is he going crazy? Why is he having these fits? Well, because at 2, he starts to get a new set of emotions that he didn't have before. And he, quite frankly, doesn't know how to deal with them and needs your guidance. And so, yes, some patience, definitely patience, but some simple tools. One of the tools is name it to tame it. 2-year-olds go, wow, you seem angry. And now he can go, oh, that's what that is. That's anger. And he starts laughing. Ah, you're so happy. Ah, and he can start naming his emotions.
Yeah,
and then we've got drills to learn how to change, how to manage your emotions. A little game called I'm Gonna Be. And so let's play a game of opposites. All right, so Michael, what's the opposite of happy?
Sad.
All right, what's the opposite of angry?
Joyful.
Okay, and so now we take that game, it's a vocabulary game, and we change it to an emotional game where you say, you're going to give me a negative answer. Michael, how do you feel?
Angry.
But I'm going to be
joyful.
All right, and so we practice that over and over as a game. Okay, just talking about emotion, learning emotions. Then one day, Michael was all over there. Michael, how do you feel? Oh, I feel angry, but I'm going to be joyful.
Awesome.
It helps him learn how to manage his emotions.
That's great.
Yeah. We were all taught, when you're angry, count to 10. Okay. Why? First of all, it gives you a little bit of time to react. But when you count, it takes you out of the limbic reptile part of your brain that wants to kill somebody and puts you into the prefrontal cortex where you're thinking logically. And by the time you get to 10, you can think logically about what's going on.
Right.
So a tremendous tool that we've all been taught for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
If you can't count to 10 yet, maybe you're too young, you learn a little song.
Yeah.
Boy, and I'm not going to be angry. And you teach the song, and then, how do you feel? Angry? Well, let's sing our song.
That's great.
Yeah. And so, I do that through every age group. When you're an adolescent, when you're a teen, it's like going through the terrible twos again, but with much more options because you have a bigger body and a lot more power to do some damage. And so you're also dealing not really with new emotions, but new intensity of emotion because of the hormone.
That's right.
Right. And so you've got to learn how to deal with them all over again.
Yes. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest struggles that I'm seeing in today's society that I'm really trying to help with is connection and communication and bonding. And the reason for that is when they're feeling these emotions, if they trust you enough to come to you with it and talk to you about it, you can help them. But if they don't, they're going to try to manage it on their own or through another friend that's their same age who also doesn't know how to manage it. And then they create lies that they believe are true about those things. And it's imperative that you have their trust so that they can bring it to you and go, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Can you talk to me about this? And that's not natural. That takes a lot of work from the parents' end, a lot of intentionality, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of patience to get to that place. But if they'll do the work and they'll be intentional about creating those moments and those opportunities and that trust, they will bring that to you. And maybe not right away, but eventually.
Again, cop to coach. You're not going to come to the cop with a problem like that, but they'll come to the.
And if you do a good job at coach, when they grow up, you get to be consultant. So it's actually caretaker, cop, coach, consultant.
Nice. Very nice.
So then when they're in their 20s, they want to be around you. And when they're in their 30s and they have their own family, they live near you if they can, because they want to be around you, because you've guided them and given them this trusting place for them to be a consultant. And now they want you to be a consultant for their kids. And your grandkids, you get to be a consultant and a coach, because they know that what you can see the fruit in them, they can see the fruit in themselves. And they realize, especially, we all say, wait till they're 30 because they'll see what you did. But especially when they're older and they have kids and they see, you know what, this is pretty hard. And the way that my parents managed it was amazing. I need to be closer to them to really understand what they were doing. And that's when you're consulting, when they go, I don't know what to do. He's going bananas, and and this is where I think your book is so helpful, because not everyone has that. And not everyone had a parent that was actually good at being a parent, or was intentional about being a parent, or is even still there in their lives, or ever was, even on a worst case scenario. So then I love the fact that you've given them something to at least go to for a tool belt to start that process and not be in the dark trying to figure out what to do, because that's where you get those excuses. We're doing the best we can. We're winging it. We take it day by day, and I hear more moms in this generation tell me that their kids are a pain in the butt than I've ever heard before. And it breaks my heart, because gosh, they're not a pain in the butt. They're the most joyful thing on the planet and the coolest thing you've ever been entrusted with in your life.
Well, one of the teachers I've read said that children are not in your life for you to teach them. They're in your life for them to teach you.
And that's true. That's true. And you want to learn patience? Have a child.
And many parents make the mistake of trying to relive their life. I wasn't a good enough baseball player, so my son's going to be the best baseball player. Right. He's going to play baseball, and he doesn't like baseball.
Your son might like ballet, and that might make you angry, but that, you know what, you encourage whatever they want to do. You really do.
Yes.
And it's important that you do, because that's where that trust factor comes in that I was talking about. You know, the dad link for me is 3 links of chain. And one of the things that I talk about is you have to first learn to be a son before you can learn to be a father. And it's
Makes
so
perfect sense.
important to learn how to be a good son as a father, or a good daughter as a mother, to learn then to be able to then be a good parent.
Like anything, you have to become a good student before you become a good teacher. So
Exactly. That sounds like something Bruce Lee would have said.
yeah, yes. So same principle, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fortunately, some parents are so badly broken on drugs or
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
that it's very hard to be a good child.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, once you have found your identity, you have found your place, and you have strength, you can give back and try to take care of a parent that has those kind of problems.
That's
But
right.
it's very, very difficult. I feel for those people. But again, the tools are out there for, if you had a horrible, let me back up, 2 styles of parenting. Number 1, I want to be just like my parents. Number 2, my parents were horrible. I'm going to do just the opposite. I want to present the middle ground, where take the best that your parents did and use it. Where they were lacking, I've got the tools to help you do better. And
Yes.
so somewhere
Yes.
middle, be the better parent.
Yep. And something to remember is doing it 180 degrees, the opposite, doesn't mean you're doing a good job. It just means you're doing it the opposite. You're not thinking through it still.
Absolutely. So yes, and that's one of the good things about living, is that we're always moving forward.
Yeah.
If we can, we try to always move forward. And so the internet, is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a double-edged sword.
That's right.
But there's tremendous information out there at the touch of a pad or a phone. I don't go to the library anymore. I can do it on
Yeah.
my computer.
Yeah.
I used to have to go to a library, look in the card catalog, find the book, check out the book, if they even had the book or the information I wanted.
Right.
Now, there are millions of studies on everything. You can find the information quickly and easily.
You can hear a summary on it in 10 minutes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you can, and in my case, you can get a summary on raising your kid for under $5.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. Well, let me ask you a question. How do you address the internet thing? And I know we're going a bit long here, but I think that's important, because it is an issue for today's age. And I think it's an important thing.
Yeah. And I'm old school. I thought I had a good life without the internet.
Yeah.
The American Society of Pediatrics says no screen time for the first 18 months.
Yeah.
0 screen time for the first 18 months.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Huffington Post did a survey, and parents of infants, 50% believe they get as much education from the laptop as they do from a person. Okay, that's a stark difference in perception. And that's, again, raising 4-dimensional children in a 2-dimensional world. Get them off the screen. They do not belong on the screen until 18 months.
Yes.
After that, maybe an hour a day of guided, when you use it like a book,
Right.
where the child reads the book or plays the game, and you ask questions.
Yes.
Why did the puppy do that? How does the puppy feel? What do you think is going to happen next? That human interaction is what creates a mature being, a mature human. And it should start early. Unfortunately, bottom line, parents like to use the tablet, the phone, or the TV as a babysitter.
I know.
Big mistake.
I did a talk with Les Brown on my program, Motivational Parents. And it was a record skip in the room, because I walked in basically on stage and said, so who's raising your kids, you or your iPad? And everybody went, whoa, because they knew they were doing that. It's a shame. So what about teenage years? How would you suggest parents monitor that?
Okay, so first of all, even Facebook and I'll say you cannot have an account until you're 13.
Mm-hmm.
Not my fault. That's their rules.
Sure.
You can't do that until you're 13.
Yep.
I would continue as the cop on the internet with access to everything. and not comment on anything to be intrusive until you see something that's scary.
Yeah.
And then we have an off-screen conversation about it.
And so here's the thing about that. They have apps, Snapchat, they have calendar apps that look like a calendar that aren't calendar, they're actually chats. They can get away with way more. They grew up with the technology. So I consider myself a pretty techie dad, but I can't monitor what my son's doing. And I told him at 13, we had this conversation, maybe even 12. I said, I've put things in place to protect you, but I know that you're smart and you can get around them if you want to. So I need to teach you to monitor yourself, because I can't watch everything you're doing. I'm trying, but I know that you can get around this. So let's talk about the food that you eat and the things that you ingest with your ears and the things that you ingest with your eyes, because they're all mutually important. If you were to eat, McDonald's every day, your lifespan is going to be very short. And if you watch crap on TV every day or on the internet, your life is going to be short and miserable. And you're going to feel like you do if you were to eat McDonald's every day. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel healthy. Same with what goes in your ears. Whatever music you're listening to, you're worshiping something. What is it? And I have to admit, there were some times where he was listening to things that I despised, and I would sit him down and I would say, listen, are you making a good choice? Whatever, I'm going to do what I want. And I had to coach him through that. And then he started kind of freestyling, like rapping on his own. And he was very good. But the verbiage, I'm like, I can't back you up on that, bud. I love you. I love all the creative things you do, but I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that. I don't put those things into my ears. And it took him a couple of years, but on his own, he got it. He got rid of all that stuff. He realized what he was doing. And we're very fortunate in the fact that he is very involved in basketball. He even said to me yesterday, which is interesting, we're having this conversation. He said, Dad, I was playing pickup with the guys, and in between every game, they would go and check their phone for a few minutes. He said, I'm still on the court shooting, warming up. I don't care about my phone. I want to play basketball. He said, I don't understand why they're so addicted to that. And I said, you see what I'm talking about. And I said, do you remember we talked about this when you were young? He goes, yeah, you used to always tell me I was addicted to my phone. I said, how do you feel now that you're not? And he said, really free. And I said, why don't you share that with your friends? So you're right. I'm all about getting him off the screen. And when he was young, he always wanted to play video games. I didn't promote it much. I always would say, he would say, I want to play video games with my friends. I'd say, here's a fishing pole. Want to go fishing? He'd be like, yeah, okay, off we go. Or I would say, just loaded up the paddle boards. You want to go paddle? He's like, yeah. I would give him an alternative. And as parents, that's an intentionality and sacrifice that I'm talking about, where you really have to give them another option. You can't say, well, I'm laying on the couch, find something else to do. You got to get up off the couch and go do something with them.
Do as I do, not as I say.
More is caught than taught, right? Because that's all they're going to do is what you do.
Right. And so, when you keep telling him, I don't want to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
When you talk about your faith, it's going to make a long-term effect. It's going to get there because you live what you say. If you smoke and you tell him don't smoke, it's bad for you, he'll be smoking.
You're right. And that's a fact. I think a lot of parents need to see that too.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. You have to be an adult and take responsibility for yourself.
Even if you're tired of adulting that day, right? That's great. Yeah, I think, if we want, for me, I want my son's floor to be my ceiling. And if in order for that to happen, I have to be my very best to really create that high level of floor for him so he can go. And that's a legacy thing. We get to build that, but we have to first step up if we expect them to.
Something I call Frankenstein envy. Frankenstein envy, especially in teen girls, is to look at everybody else and say, God, I wish I had Mary's skin. I wish I had Chrissy's car. I wish I had Juanita's hair. And just take a look at all the best things of somebody else, assemble them into one monstrous perfection, and then try to compete with that. Okay. And so you're envious of not Juanita's life, just Juanita's hair, not Chrissy's whole life with just her car. But you put that all together and say, I'm not worthy because I don't have all of this. And so the internet makes that even worse, because the internet is the place where you put your highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
The best part of your life. Here we are on a weekend trip. That's so much fun. Not, you don't see, here I am having a fight with my little brother.
Right.
So when you compare your life with the internet, not going to be a good, fair comparison. Then you got Kim Kardashian, who goes up there, and she is a beautiful woman, but she photoshops her pictures so that she's even more beautiful. You cannot fairly compete with that.
Right.
And nor could you. And so this is what I call one of the problems of the internet. And so how do you look at things like that? Do you have envy, or do you let it motivate you? So when Juanita has beautiful hair, should I hate her because she has this beautiful hair? I want to just see her trip and fall, and and all these envious thoughts. Or do you say, how does she get that beautiful hair? Is there something I could do? Could I use conditioners? Could I get a better haircut? Could I blah, 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 blah? How could I set some goals to get what she has? And so Frankenstein envy, this false envy from trying to compete with everybody on everything. No, just take a realistic look at your friend's life, their whole life. But then if they have something better than you, let it motivate you to learn how to be better at that yourself.
Sure. Well, this goes back to knowing whose you are too, because we are all uniquely made. We're like snowflakes. There are no two that are alike. And the attributes that you have, she may envy of you and you don't even know. But when you really know, as a woman, as a girl, you are a creator more than most, because you have the ability to create life. So you have been designed to be someone who fights with your love. That's who women are. You're designed to be able to change atmospheres with your love, change atmospheres with who you are as a woman, make babies, be able to create life, to be able to nurture in a way that men never could, to be able to protect men in a way that we need, or we would all be dead when we go, hey, y'all, watch this, right? And you're the one going, oh, hold on. That's probably not the best idea. We need that from women. But when it comes to looks in women, I think it's so important for them to understand that they're a created being. And so they were created by someone that looks at them and says, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. If you can grab that and really believe that about yourself, then your self-worth and your self-esteem and all of that, again, like we talked about, isn't affected by the screen, because it's not real. Everything you see online is staged. Videos that look like they're a surprise, they're staged. I was in production. I can tell you 20 years ago, they were staged. Now you can tell because they're stupid now. Like it's a fake cop at the window, but they've always been staged. Everything you see online is staged. You can't see what's around me. I have lights and cameras and stuff all around me. You can't see that. Everything is staged. And it's so important, girls, for you to know that your self-worth is so amazing, so incredible that if you grab onto that, you'll find the life you want, because you will not accept a hamburger when you could have a filet mignon. You'll know your worth. You won't give it away. And this is something I've been trying to help young women with for a long time, because I see what happens. We call it daddy issues, but what it really is a lack of self-esteem, self-worth, and understanding whose you are. And in that space, women, girls, young girls tend to seek the approval of the father from another man in the wrong way, unhealthy ways. And when they have the approval of their father, they generally don't deal with those same issues. But what if they don't have a father? So then they have to get the approval of that father, the perfect father. And if they can grab onto that, again, you're not going to struggle with those same issues that most kids deal with. You may still have some. I mean, we all are self-aware. We all have a story going on in our head about ourselves that we speak to ourselves all day long. And it's important to know that everyone has that same thing going on. They're thinking the same thing you're thinking. You're so worried about what they think of you. The truth is they're not thinking of you at all. They're thinking about themselves. And it doesn't matter what they think of you when you really know who you are, like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. Because when you really know who you are, you really know your self-worth, you really know that you're a good, moralistic, solid person, no one can tell you any different because you know it's a lie. You know the truth. And I wish all young girls could get a hold of this, but this thing started years ago, you know, it started with the super skinny model, right? That was unachievable. And we had girls that were anorexic and bulimic and all of these things. And now they're looking to have, you know, junk in the trunk and whatever else they're promoting to look a certain body style, that people are altering their bodies, you know, with surgery to look like that. For what? For what? It doesn't change anything about who you are in here at all.
And what you said sounded like it was directed to teen girls, but this is the dad link, and dads have daughters, and dads need to be aware of all of that going through their daughters' minds.
Yeah.
And dads probably weren't daughters and didn't have it go through their minds. So they have to have somebody like you to explain it so they understand it in a way that dads can do something about.
We're their first love.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's powerful, man. I love what you're doing, Tim. I think it's really cool. We found out, by the way, that we live really close to one another. So I'm looking forward to grabbing some coffee or hanging out with you sometime soon.
Absolutely.
And I so appreciate you coming on. I know we went long, but maybe we'll cut this into two. It was worth it. I think that you've had a bird's eye view of youth for a very long time. And I think that you've really built something that can help parents, but also can help kids. And I can't imagine how many kids you've poured into. You know, the Bible calls it sowing and reaping. So I pray that you reap all that you've sowed, because you've sowed into a lot of hearts and minds and made an impact that will never be forgotten. You know, it's one of those things that you always want to create a legacy with your children, but some of the times they're not your children that you create the legacy with, they're other people's children. So I applaud you for what you've done and what you're doing, and that you're taking your retirement time and you're still doing it. You're still pouring into people. And I just think that's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, one of the blessings of being a teacher.
Yeah.
And if I could throw in one more thing,
Please.
Tried to make this as affordable and easy as possible. If you go to my website, 4d-2d.com, you can buy the chapter for your child for under $1. I don't care how broke you are, you can afford $1 to help your child live a better life.
Say that website again a little slower.
4D as in dimension, -2d.com. And you can't forget the dash, because you end up in China somewhere. That's the way the internet works. 4d-2d.com.
Yep. And it's on the screen right above Tim now. So I hope that all of you go there. It's worth a read. I looked at some of the material Tim sent over, and it's really, really good. And I think it will help you and bless you. So brother, I thank you for coming on, man. I so appreciate you. And I look forward to meeting you in person soon.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I too look forward.
Yeah. Blessings. Well, thanks for joining us on the Dad Link. That was Tim McCarthy, a wealth of knowledge. And what a blessing, man. People that are just, I get to connect with and we're getting to have conversations with. I hope it blesses you as much as it does me, because I'm learning something every day. Thanks for joining the Dad Link. Have a great day. My name is Mike Feynman, and I'm a dad.